Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Blue Zones Activate Bethlehem volunteer training. We are just so excited that you were interested in volunteering with us for the Blue Zones Activate Wellbeing Trail that will be happening on June 7th at the meeting spot of the Sun Inn Courtyard from 1 to 4 p.m. This volunteer training video is really just to be able to provide the basics of Blue Zones, our Blue Zones Activate initiative in Bethlehem, and kind of just go over a little bit about the upcoming kickoff event, so you have some background going into it the day of the event. So just a little bit about our Blue Zones Activate initiative in Bethlehem. It is sponsored by 4 sponsors, which are Lehigh Valley Health Network, City Center Group, the Leonard Parker Pohl Institute for Health, and Lehigh Valley Phantoms. My name is Lauren. I am the Community Transformation Director here for our Blue Zones Activate program in Bethlehem. It's such an exciting time to be involved because Blue Zones initiatives are happening in all 3 cities currently in the Lehigh Valley, Bethlehem, Easton, and Allentown. And our agenda today is really just to go over Blue Zones and what they are, the Core 9 and the Power 9 and the Core 4, the Life Radius, Blue Zones Activate Bethlehem, how we really got here and where we're going, our kickoff event and volunteering, and something called a stairwell speech. So Blue Zones was founded on many people really living into their 100s, called centenarians. But our purpose is to empower everyone everywhere to be able to live better, longer. And in all 3 cities, it is really our goal for increased quality of life and happiness as one ages. So how do we do that? And where did it start? So it all began with Dan Buettner's 20-year longevity study to find the world's healthiest people. It was back in 2004 that National Geographic partnered with Dan and traveled around the world to find where people were living the longest and healthiest lives. He then dubbed these areas on a map called Blue Zones. And really, the reason they're called Blue Zones, just a fun fact, is that each of these areas were marked with a blue marker or dot on the map, which is how the name came to be. Based off of this research, he partnered with National Geographic in 2005 for The Secrets of Living Longer. And it's still to this day the 3rd best-selling issue ever, as he later then came out with a series of New York Times best-selling books and has a variety of different Blue Zones related books now available to the general public. So Blue Zones, what are they? So these are the 5 Blue Zones, and if you notice, there are 6 dots on this map. So Singapore is outside of the 5 original Blue Zones, but I'll tell you in a little bit why that is here on the map and why we mention that. So Okinawa, Japan, was really known for its strong social connections, gardening, plant-based diet, eating diets high in soy, and having a strong sense of purpose. Loma Linda, California, was known for their large Seventh-day Adventist population, which really focuses on community and healthy eating. So it's tied very strongly to their faith. They really eat a high vegetarian-friendly diet and have a strong sense of community, just like Okinawa, Japan. The Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica is really renowned for its low rates of heart disease and cancer, large social networks, really built with a lot of hardworking people, as well as their active lifestyle and strong social support. So I think we can see in the 3 we mentioned so far, just their strong social ties that they have. Eukarya, Greece, is an island with a Mediterranean diet, very low stress levels, poor people living on the island's highlands. So just the demographic, or I'm sorry, not the demographic, but the way in which people are seated, in this area of Greece really encourages exercising heavily, and a lot of these individuals are involved in natural gardening, walking to neighbors' homes, things of that nature. Sardinia, Italy, really puts their family first, celebrates their elders, eats a diet rich in olive oil and fish. They walk a lot, and they are known to have a glass or two of red wine a night, which really encourages social connection between, friends and neighbors and family. So Singapore is noted on this map because this was actually an area in which was an engineered longevity hotspot that implemented policy changes that really drove longevity. So in the 1960s, the average age was 65 as far as their top longevity, and then it increased by 20 years after that. So, with education and changes in the environment, so nurses coming out into the community and talking about health and wellness, offering cooking classes, utilizing local produce and farming, all of these environmental changes really increased their quality and longevity of life. So, I think that just speaks very heavily to the work we do at Blue Zones within this community transformation work. That really, when you're focusing on policy changes and creating an environment that fosters health and wellness and growth. It, based off of Singapore's research, really has almost a 12 or 20-year increase to not doing those things. So the Power Nine. So Dan obviously traveled to all of these areas. What did he find out, and what were the commonalities in these 5 areas? So we call these the Power Nine. And as you can see on the slide, there are kind of 4 categories that these Power Nine fit within. They're going to be what we're heavily focused on today because they're going to be what you're going to see at the kickoff event. So we'll be exploring these areas in a little more detail, and you'll be able to see how they tie into our Blue Zones lifestyle throughout the kickoff well-being trail event on June 7th. So we will be focusing on move, so moving naturally, the right outlook, eating wisely, and connecting. So the first one, moving naturally. So the world's longest lived people, they don't pump iron, run marathons, or join gyms. What a surprise. They move naturally. So how are they doing that throughout their day? So they live in environments that constantly are nudging them into moving without thinking about it. So some examples include, walking and biking to their local grocery stores, farming for their food supply, walking in to or from work or school, biking. How are they implementing natural movement throughout their day? So when we think of this in regards to the kickoff event, participants are going to be able to walk naturally throughout Broad and Main Streets where these well-being stops are located, as well as partake in some natural movement activities, as well as live salsa dancing classes with a live salsa band. So there will be many ways in which participants can move naturally throughout our event. The second one is right outlook. So purpose is the first of the Power Nine that fall into this category. And Okinawans really call it ikigai, which is known for the reason for being or reason to live. And then Akoyans call it plan de vida. For both, it translates to why I wake up in the morning. So I'm not sure if you knew, but knowing your sense of purpose is worth up to 7 years of extra life expectancy. So we will be having 2 purpose workshops as part of our downtown Bethlehem well-being trail, which will be a really exciting way to engage the community in finding their purpose in relation to their own well-being as well as it relates to their belonging in Bethlehem. The second is downshifting. So even people in the blue zones experience stress, which we know leads to things like chronic inflammation associated with every major age-related disease. But what we have learned from the people living in the longest lived people, is that it's really around the routines they implement to shed stress. So we think of this here in the US as self-care. For example, Okinawans take a few moments each day to remember their ancestors and downshift. Adventists pray, and Sardinians really do happy hour. So, what are you doing throughout your day to really downshift? So, we won't be having any downshifting kickoff activities, but it does fall under the category of right outlook when we're thinking about the Power Nine. Eat wisely. So, what does this mean? So, one of the Power Nine that Blue Zones really, focuses on is the 80% rule. So it's called Hari Hachibu, and it's the Okinawan 2,500-year-old Confucian mantra said before meals, and it reminds them to stop eating when their stomachs are 80% full. So try to think of this as mindful eating. It's really the 20% gap between not being hungry and feeling full, and it could be the difference between losing weight or gaining it. The second is plant slant. So beans, including fava, black, soy, and lentils, are the cornerstone of most centenarian diets. Meat mostly is eaten on average only 5 times per month. So this is definitely not the standard American diet, since it focuses on beans and lentils with meat only being eaten about 5 times a month. And when meat is eaten, the serving sizes are really 3 to 4 ounces, which is really only about a size of a deck of cards. Wine at 5. So people in all blue zones except Adventists drink alcohol moderately and regularly, and moderate drinkers tend to outlive non-drinkers. But it's not only about drinking wine at 5. It's drinking among community and in community with others. So the trick really is to drink, 1 to 2 glasses per day, preferably Sardinian Cannonau wine with friends and or with food. Connecting. So connecting focuses on belonging. All but 5 of the 263 centenarians we interviewed, or Blue Zones interviewed, Dan interviewed, belong to some faith-based community. So denomination didn't seem to matter, but research shows that attending faith-based services 4 times per month will add 4 to 14 years of life expectancy, which is pretty crazy. That's a huge, huge increase to life expectancy. Loved ones first. So successful centenarians in the blue zones put their families first. This means keeping aging parents and grandparents nearby or in the home. It lowers disease and mortality rates of children in the home too, when they really commit to a life partner or invest in time with their children and the people that they love. Positive pack. The world's longest lived people chose or were born into social circles that supported healthy behaviors. So Okinawans created Moais, which is a group of 5 friends that committed to each other for life. So research shows that smoking, obesity, happiness, and even loneliness are contagious. So the social networks of long-lived people have favorably shaped their healthy behaviors. So in the original Blue Zones, residents make healthy choices really because those choices are easy, even unavoidable in their surroundings. So instead of focusing just on the individual, Blue Zones Activate focuses on optimizing the environment and, more specifically, your life radius. So the life radius is the area around your home or work where you spend the majority, up to 90% of your time. And in that life radius, we focus on policy changes to influence environmental changes that drive increased health and happiness. So what we know is when we don't have a role in our environment, informing our environment, it gets built for us, and not always in the healthiest ways. So Blue Zones Activate and Blue Zones projects come into communities and look, towards this community transformation work of how can we alter the environment in positive ways to nudge people into healthier directions and behaviors. So why Bethlehem? How did we get here? So Blue Zones LLC was engaged last year to conduct a readiness and feasibility study in Allentown. And really, based on those strengths and opportunities identified during that assessment, a formal proposal was made to move forward with a Blue Zones project in Allentown, as well as transformational policy work in the neighboring Lehigh Valley cities of Bethlehem and Easton. So Lehigh Valley Health Network spearheaded a partnership and a sponsorship with, City Center Group, the Leonard Parker Pool Institute for Health, and the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, and they graciously supported the Blue Zones project and activates coming to all three cities in the Lehigh Valley. So as noted before, Blue Zones Activate is really an intensive 3-year initiative designed to accelerate community-endorsed change, delivering healthier environments through transformation. We focus on 2 areas, the built environment, which focuses on promoting natural movement. How are we moving from point A to point B? Encouraging social gathering places. What does that look like in the Bethlehem community? Complete neighborhoods, how people are getting around and how they're connected to those areas. And what do the housing options look like? What kind of housing is being offered, and is there a range of housing? So these are the 4 areas Blue Zones Activate focuses on from a built environment perspective. And from a food systems approach, we're focusing on things like building food skills. So are individuals equipped with what they need to know and how they need to select and prepare healthy food and items? Making healthy food accessible and affordable for everyone. So what does that look like in Bethlehem? What are our healthy food programs? Increasing healthy food environments. So ensuring that healthy options and habits are available for everyone. And really growing the local food supply. So what does the current public land look like, and planning to enable really food production by local residents and within the local community. So this is just a little overview of where we're going. Blue Zones Activate engaged in a discovery week back in December 2024, which brought in subject matter experts in food systems and built environment work that really explored the Bethlehem community and identified areas for, outlined strengths, barriers, and recommendations. And then based off of that report, they did provide a discovery report to the Bethlehem community, which really included recommendations in which the work could be done and moved forward to increase, a healthy environment in the Bethlehem community. So we have a steering committee that works with Blue Zones Activate Bethlehem. We then came back together with the community and the steering committee, and we voted on our summit. At our summit on our discovery report recommendations, and we're now in the midst of our blueprint and action plan, which is basically just a job description of my own for the next 2 years and the work that will be happening after our kickoff event. So we're kind of at the point of gearing up for our kickoff event in June, as well as the transformation work that will be happening in the Bethlehem community in the future months. So Blue Zones Activate Bethlehem, the kickoff event, that's why you're all here. I graciously thank you for taking the time to kind of listen to our backstory and how we came to be what we are today. But I know you're here for one thing, and that's to volunteer for the upcoming kickoff event. So what it will be is a health and well-being kind of trail throughout Main and Broad Street, Bethlehem. It's going to be starting at the Sun Inn Courtyard and ending there. And it is on June 7th from 1 to 4. So we are partnering with restaurants and small business owners. We're going to be doing samples, workshops. There will be live music and more. It's going to be a great, fun day. But really, what is the purpose of a kickoff? So our purpose is to engage a Blue Zones lifestyle and encourage people to really explore what that means. So we're also In addition to encouraging the Blue Zones lifestyle, we're informing the community of the policy recommendation work that will be happening in the built environment and food systems in the next 2 years. Um, Really, the volunteers will be needed for setup, breakdown, and everything else in between, and will be assigned as greeters, directors, or well-being station. They'll be, assigned to sit at different well-being stations and trail stops throughout the downtown. So my anticipation is there will not be a ton of setup or breakdown that will be required of volunteers. However, it could happen. But that really what we will be needing is, your friendly, happy, excited faces to greet people and bring them into our event. There will be a balloon arch outside the Sun and Courtyard. So I think a lot of people that didn't RSVP or plan to be there that day will be walking up Main Street and might be able to come to our event if we encourage them and inform them properly of what's happening that day. There will also be volunteers needed to direct people in the direction in which they may need to go to understand what's happening with the well-being trail. And then there's going to be separate well-being stations throughout these downtown restaurants and businesses. So really the merchant stops. There are some places in which have requested an additional volunteer. So that person will really probably just be checking off the passports that will be handed to participants that come in at the beginning of the event. So I would encourage you, as far as dress, to wear comfortable shoes. A volunteer shirt will be provided to you the day of the event. If you did not provide me with your t-shirt size, please reach out and do so. Parking, you can park anywhere downtown Bethlehem or at the North Street parking garage, which is really the one that's connected to Edge in Bethlehem. The other one, is in the midst of renovation, so it's not available. So that would be your closest parking garage. And then arrival and assignments. You'll receive an email with the arrival time, reporting location, on-site contact, and volunteer assignment. I will get that to you no later than Wednesday, June 4th. So that's a little bit about the kickoff. So what is a stairwell speech? I put this in here just to provide comfortability with, what Blue Zones Activate is. You will not be quizzed on this. I think that the chance of someone specifically asking you Blue Zones related questions that day will be very minimum. And if they do, and it's not something you know the answer to, I just encourage you to send them to one of the Blue Zones employees throughout the Lehigh Valley that are there and present that day to be able to answer their questions fully. However, if someone asks you simple questions like, what are Blue Zones? Or, what's Blue Zones Activate Bethlehem? Really, it's a health and well-being initiative. You can keep it as simple as that. If you would like to elaborate, it's a health and well-being initiative focused on policy changes in the built environment and food systems. And if you would like to elaborate even further, you could say it's a health and well-being initiative focused on policy changes in the built environment and food systems. Our goal is to create environments that foster making the healthy choice the easy one. I don't anticipate any other additional questions coming up outside of that scope or range, or any questions that you won't already know how to answer based off of this presentation today and the just context of what's happening at the kickoff event. But I hope that that is helpful in just kind of creating a very, very quick stairwell speech or elevator speech in what, some of the questions may be that day and how to be able to best answer them. Again, don't stress. The purpose of our event is for fun. It's to be in community with others. It is to promote a Blue Zones lifestyle, which you all are doing by being there today, moving naturally, connecting with others, and the other additional things like finding your sense of belonging and connection and eating wisely. Those things will just come based off of what we're doing and engaging in with the event that day. So again, please don't stress. I don't want this to seem, heavier than it needs to be. And I know that you are all equipped with every skill that you need to have that day to be there and to be able to make this event an amazing one. So If you have any questions in addition to what I discussed here today, please don't hesitate to reach out by email. I cannot thank you enough for being interested in volunteering with us, being present with us for this full event. And if you have any, you know, information you need to communicate with me, if you have, any health concerns or anything that would require, to be sitting all day or something that, a request that you have, please reach out to me and I will accommodate as best as I can. So I look forward to seeing you on June 7th. And we are so excited you will be joining us for our Blue Zones kickoff. Thank you so much.